Welcome to the CCFR Radio Podcast, your source for news, updates, and stories from the CCFR.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 90 of the CCFR Radio Podcast. I'm your host, Rod Tackett. Thanks for joining me again. Today on the podcast, I'm going to bring on Tracy Wilson as usual. We'll bring her on to do the big CCFR update. She's got a lot of stuff to talk about today. Me, not so much, so I'll just talk about a couple of things real quick, and then we'll move on and get Wilson on. But first, I want to thank our sponsors. First of all, Vortex, the power of optics. I want to thank everyone over at Vortex Canada for continuing to support the podcast. We truly appreciate it. Couldn't do without it. And our newest sponsor, which is the Safari Club International chapter in Sask Rivers, Saskatchewan Rivers. So thanks, Sask Rivers SCI, for making a generous donation to the CCFR and for sponsoring the podcast long term. We really appreciate it. If you want to check out all the great work that they do over at the Sask Rivers chapter of SCI, go to their website at saskriverssci.com. That's saskriverssci.com. All right. So what have we got today? So I've just got a couple of things to talk about real quick. One of them is finally episode 7 of Gun Ban Canada Exposed is going to come out. I think it's going to air in the next maybe week and a half, 2 weeks. There was a delay on the Wild TV side. There's plenty of delay on my side as usual, actually. I'm going to get that reputation as being hard to work with only because the scripts are very intricate, right? And again, as I've said before, I have to do it all myself just because it's such highly specialized content, right? So anyway, I might have mentioned this before, but episode 7 is a 1-hour episode. So it's 44 minutes of content. And so it's like writing 2 episodes, and I've been struggling with it because I want it to be perfect. It'll never be perfect, but that's what I'm going for. But 2 blocks. So I'll explain this first. A block is, let's say the show opens, then you have content, and then you have commercial. Well, that space in between, that's a block, right? So typically the way that we do our shows, there's 4 blocks in a half-hour show. And they're roughly 4.5 minutes to 5.5 minutes, right? Well, this is a 1-hour show, so there's 7 blocks, and we can do a little bit longer. We can do 6.5 minute blocks if we want to. Maybe 7.5 minutes. So anyway, I dedicated 2 blocks. Like the majority of the show is a review and additional information on all the topics that we covered. And 2 blocks I dedicated to a topic that we didn't cover in the main series, which was multiple victim public shootings. So 2 blocks, I think there's about 12 minutes of content, maybe a little bit more than that on that topic. And it's really difficult to write because these are the stuff of nightmares, right? These are the worst possible events that can ever happen in anyone's lives, right? So, I'm having to walk the line between, we have to be honest and dispassionate and objective to figure out what we can learn by these events in order to mitigate them or prevent them. And at the same time, I have to be sensitive to the people who have gone through those things because they're horrible and no one would ever want to go through something like that. So that has to be observed when we're talking about these things as well, right? But again, the most important thing now afterwards is what can we learn by these events and how can we prevent them from happening? So check that out. There's a lot of research and there's a lot of eye-opening information in those 2 blocks. I think I don't want to go on and on about it, but it's all of this has been a very interesting experience for me, and primarily because you never see in-depth analysis in the mainstream media of what really happened, in these events. What can you learn by them? How do they differ from other similar events? Stuff like that, right? And I guess the media is always, emotional content is better for them, right? Because people get emotionally affected and they continue to watch through the commercials into the next block, right? And I guess that's the goal most times. So we really dig into stuff. So it's really interesting. Don't miss it. And don't forget, watch it. If you're interested in that stuff, watch it twice so that you understand the fundamentals so that you can communicate that to other people and make sure that you share these episodes because that's why we made them. All right. So that's coming out in the next week and a half to 2 weeks, something like that. So it's been a long wait. There's a long gap, but it's going to get done. The other thing is Bill Blair's latest comments. So it's been a few weeks since we did a podcast because we're actually really busy, and I can't talk too much about the projects that we have coming out other than we got a lot of big things coming out yet again. So, anyway, I can only allude to those things. We're preparing for an election already. We started preparing for an election 2 weeks ago. So if Justin Trudeau decides, he can't get his way and he's threatening to call an election, of course you got Jagmeet Singh. He's always there to back up Trudeau. It's like, well, I don't want to give him what he wants. Like, you're giving him everything he wants, right? It's funny because the NDP, there's only one reason they don't want elections, because they're broke, right? And so they're not prepared for an election, and they'll actually lose seats, even from the seats they lost in the last election. And again, that's just my opinion, but and so as a result, Singh's going to give Trudeau everything he wants. He's going to basically, between those two guys, they have a majority government, right? And then throw in the bloc. When it comes to gun control, the bloc vote for gun control all the time. So if you're in Quebec, don't forget that, right? So and they don't care about the details, the data, the truth behind it. They're just doing it for political purposes. So anyway, Quebec-based voters, don't forget that next election. So anyway, we started preparing for the next election a few weeks ago. We've got a really, really ambitious project. It's the biggest initiative that any gun group has ever. I'm sure you guys are tired of hearing me say that, because I'm tired of saying it, but it is. It's like we dreamed this thing up a few weeks ago, and it's huge. I mean, it could seriously impact the election. Everybody likes to say they're impacting the election, but at the end of the day, it's like, well, what have you done? And how could you measure it? What did you do? And, there's never an answer to that, right? But we're very results based here. So I can quantify exactly the impact that it will have, or what our efforts done, right? And I can tell you all about it soon. Can't tell you yet because I don't want it foiled, but wait till you see it. It's quite an ambitious project, and there's a role to play for every single CCFR member and every single gun owner. There's a role for you to play in this plan. So it's very exciting. And then we've got a public education program to the tune of $125,000 to $175,000 coming. So we're working through the details. It's not finalized yet, so I can't tell you it's going to happen for sure. But we've got our friend Matt Magellan working on that right now, and it's going to be pretty big. So anyway, always big things going on here, but it causes a lot of work, and that work causes us to have to sacrifice something. So one of the things that got sacrificed was the podcast. I haven't done one in a couple of weeks, so we didn't get to talk about Bill Blair's comments. But in case you missed what he said, here it is.
We're seeing ideologically motivated violent extremists who are using online platforms to propagate and advocate for hatred and violence against women, against religious minorities, anti-Semitic, Islamophobic, and hateful speech, and advocating violence. And we can use these red flag laws because I will tell you, many of those extremists, not every person who's in the gun lobby is an extremist, but everybody in the extremist is in the gun lobby. And
okay, so that was in the Liberal Party convention. No minister that I'm aware of, as long as I've been alive, no Canadian government minister has ever said the atrocious things that Bill Blair says. I don't know. I've sat with Bill Blair, and I really believe in my heart of hearts that there's something really wrong with him, because what an incredible thing to say. I'm not sure what we've done or anyone else has done to even deserve that. Even if we did deserve it, you just wouldn't say that as a government minister. You have to keep some level of decorum, some level of classiness, right? Some level of maturity to really be respected, and for people to have confidence that you're doing the job, right? But Bill Blair is just simply not capable. He can't control himself, honestly, and I'll say it out loud. I think he's a nut. But anyway, whatever. We're all in the bus, and Trudeau and all his people are driving the bus, and they're going twice the speed limit on a curvy road. And I just hope we survive the crash. That's all I can really say about these people. They are really quite a group of individuals. I've never seen anything like it. I've been alive for a while too. It's funny. We were able to capture that clip, And a lot of other people were able to capture it. But you want to know something? I went to go get a copy because I didn't want to bother Matt, who had captured it for us. I didn't want to bother him. So I'm like, oh, I'll just go to the Liberal Party website and, go through the convention. I'll just grab it from there. Not the website, their YouTube page, and CPAC broadcasted as well. And you want to know something? It's gone. It's not there. I went to CPAC even just before I started the podcast. It's not there anymore. It's just remarkable, right? But anyway, last thing I want to say real quick is I have not gotten emails out to thank all of the people that have donated made large donations to the CCFR. I have not gotten through that email list yet. And I did the first round. I think it was somewhere between now and the gun ban back then. But then a lot of large donations have come in since then. In lieu of me sending you an email or whatever, thank you to everyone, all the clubs, to all the individuals that made large donations, all the individuals that made any donation, $10 to the CCFR. It's truly appreciated. And we couldn't do any of the big things that we do without you. So thank you so much. I just can't say it enough. And I don't want you to ever feel like, oh, well, I've made a donation, I never heard anything. It's like we are running around such a small team, 5 people actually, now, 5 of us, running around doing as much work as we possibly can, especially because there could be an election coming and we're just human beings, right? We can only stay awake so long. So thank you so much for all of your help. Don't forget, if you want to donate to the CCFR, even $10, you'll get a free entry into the neon light contest, right? Lighting Up 2021. And I'll put a link in the description box of this video so that you can go straight there, make that donation, and then your name is entered for the contest. Make sure you check out all the rules of the contest before you enter. And again, thanks for all your support. All right, let's bring on Wilson. All right, on the Skype, we've got Wilson. Wilson.
Gail Taka, how's it going?
It's going. I think I made a pledge, either it was last podcast or the podcast before, that I would stop saying like, it's okay, to be more upbeat, okay. Right? It's the, it's all the load of work that makes me feel like that. But you know what? It's going awesome.
It is going awesome. I mean, considering the situation, we're all doing okay. Yeah. And we got a lot to talk about today.
We certainly do. So what's first?
Okay, well, first of all, I've had a lot of people sending me questions about C21, looking for an update, what's happening with it, where is it? The good news is it so far has not appeared on the order paper all week. Now, no news is good news with this bill. I think the idea here is to try and stave it off by delaying. So, yeah, so far nothing on C21 on the order paper. I think this government might have other priorities right now, like a pandemic. They're embroiled in Canadian Armed Forces sex scandals. And of course, Justin Trudeau has his ever important upcoming celebrity concert appearance with Jennifer Lopez. So lots going on.
It's like a leftist fest over there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's totally a leftist fest. And I mean, they're promoting vaccines and, whatever. We're not going to talk about that stuff. But yeah, this government definitely should have other priorities other than the continuing hammering over the head of legal gun owners. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
That's true.
No news is good news.
Cool. What else?
Also, our friend Michelle Rempel-Garner finally got an official government response to her parliamentary e-petition E2574. Now, of course, you'll remember this one. This one was the big one. It is Canada's largest parliamentary e-petition in the history of the country. It came in at 230,905 signatures. So that's a lot of Canadians who took the initiative to get off their butts and sign this thing. Now, interestingly enough, normally when you would do a petition like this, you'd get a response from the minister in charge of the file, which would be Bill Blair in this case. Bill Blair did not respond to it. However, there were 2 official responses. One was from Bill Blair's parliamentary secretary, Joel Lightbound. He basically says that the gun ban is supported by law enforcement, which is absolutely untrue. He details how this type of ban is within the government's purview, and they're the litany of powers that they've always had, and it's totally reasonable and justified, and basically repeated the same talking points from the May 1 press conference of last year. So nothing new from him. And then Minister of Justice David Lametti also added to the official government response. And basically, he just spoke to and defended the use of an OIC to do this. So I think it's the answer itself might be of interest to the legal team. And he said that this power of the government has existed decades. It's very rarely used, and with good reason. However, they felt this was an opportune time. He also repeated the reoccurring investments that they keep promising since 2015. And that's about it. I spoke with Michelle Rempel and asked her, what she thought of it. She said her team is kind of poring over it. It is a very long response since it comes from two officials, and she will have an official response of her own forthcoming. So we'll watch for that and make sure that we get that out. So
yeah.
Yeah.
It's it was the largest e-petition ever, but at the same time, it's some people they think, well, why should I sign this? Go through the all of the work that it's got at least 4 or 5 minutes worth of work to sign these petitions. And we talked about this before when the government just throws them aside. But again, just to remind everybody, those are important pieces of information that we can use in a variety of projects, whether they're television shows or, videos that we make, or, a press conference that we might hold on Parliament Hill. We haven't done one since COVID, obviously. But, it's important that we can factually say, Canadians, if they're that interested, then they would have signed one of the anti-gun petitions, but they didn't. But gun owners came out, and people who weren't gun owners as well, and signed that petition because it was wrong to use that power in the way that they did. So it's just important, because without that, we really can't say that there's a lot of people that don't support it, right? So it's really important to do those e-petitions. So anyway, I just wanted to make that mention.
Absolutely. It is a metric of measurement to show support or lack thereof for legislation. And at the same time, the official government response that comes out of that, because they are required to put out something, which they've done, there could be interesting tidbits in there. So, I've read it. I'm going to review it with Michael and see, but he speaks a lot to the overreaching use of power, which, has never been a problem for this government. So yeah, anyways, we'll be going through that for sure. But at the same time that all of this attack, and rest assured it is an attack on legal gun owners, is going on, there was an amazing project that came out this week. We've been promoting it for a couple of weeks now, and it was called The Gun Chase. It was a 1-hour documentary put out by City TV in Toronto, and in particular, Christina Hauerun. I hope I didn't butcher your name, but I might have. Christina really took an interest in this whole gun debate. I mean, she's not a gun owner, doesn't come from a gun owning family. She didn't consult with the CCFR. This is not a CCFR project, but she really looked at the crime and violence that is literally plaguing her city. And she wanted to know, why, what's going on? We've had gun bans, we've had increased gun control measures in this country since the Liberals have been in power, yet we continue to see the rise in gang crime and the continued shootings. So she literally went into the underbelly of the illicit crime gun world. And, she spoke to victims of violence. She spoke to former gang leaders. She spoke to violent offenders that are in prison right now for gun offenses. She spoke to law enforcement, border agents, and former gun smugglers. I have shared the link. I'm going to put it back around again on social media because it is well worth the watch. It aired nationally on television. I think it was Tuesday night, and then was out the following morning. There's a clip for it, so I'll put it out, and it's the full clip without commercials. So it's actually a great tool for us. She really dug into the sources of crime, the availability of crime guns, how easy they are to get. The guy that's in prison said basically children have them. It's crazy. And, it's interesting because you've got silence from the other side. I mean, this has been an age-old debate in this country between the anti-gun groups and the pro-gun groups. And here you've got this really interesting piece of information that, that comes out about the illicit use of firearms in Canada that directly contributes to death and injury in the country. And Police Souvien, the Coalition for Gun Control, the Spin Docs, Professor Brown, Drummond, the whole lot of them, just dead silence. They're tweeting about, cartoons from a mass shooting in Tasmania 25 years ago. Drummond's talking about suicide. These are all important things to talk about, but you literally just had, you bore witness to a really incredible piece of journalistic, information that is completely non-biased. Christina's not a part of the CCFR. She's not a part of the anti-gun lobbies. She's in the middle. She's just wanting to know what the heck is going on in her city, right? And just not a word. Mum's the word over there. So I think that silence actually speaks volumes and sort of answers the question about why we are in such a heated debate with them. And that's because we don't have the same goals. We want to see a reduction in crime and violence across the country, and they want to see a reduction in gun ownership. And I've said that a few times lately, but it's never been more apparent than it is now. And today, actually, interestingly enough, on Twitter, Evelyn Fox, she goes under the Twitter handle of @CZV416, which is Communities for Zero Violence. And she's got some back and forth in there with Blake Brown and a couple of the other ones. And it's almost frustrating to read. I mean, of course, I'm cheering for Evelyn, and at the end of the day, she doesn't support gun bans. But when you think about it, objectively, step back for a minute. This is a woman who lost a child. Like, they're dead 5 years ago now in an unsolved murder on the streets of Toronto late at night. And she's lost a child. He was a father to 4 children. Her entire life came crumbling down around her. And here she is saying, hey, on Twitter, battling these anti-gunners, saying, hey, you people are speaking from a place of privilege, and the measures you're asking for have no impact whatsoever on the marginalized or disadvantaged communities that live every day with the violence that we see. And I just think, I don't know how. I think I'm a brave girl sometimes, but then I look at somebody like Evelyn and I'm just sort of in awe, because it would be really easy and probably very satisfying for her just to hate guns, right? She lost a child on the wrong end of one. So I don't know. I just think this is coming to a boiling point, and this conversation is finally starting to get, someone's kicking the blinders off the windows here, and some light is being shed on the real problems. I know I sat in tears after the episode aired on TV. I sat in tears and I was talking to her online and I told her, I said, I'm in tears right now. I can't even imagine. I can sneak upstairs and look at Summer and she's asleep in her bed. And I worry about her and the things she does, but she's there. I can't even fathom what it would be like to lose that. So yeah, she's had her voice silenced by the anti-gun lobbies. And I brought that up with her as well. Because she doesn't support their radical measures. She's been silenced. And Christina said to me, that woman deserves a microphone, like City TV Christina. Yeah. So yeah, that's just a really interesting thing that's happening there. Yeah. So anyways.
It's what else is interesting is she has been silent. She's been shut out of the conversation. She gets no more support from the anti-gun zealots, right? And that's how those people are. Like, that's really how they are. You can talk to Marcel Wilson about that. You can talk to a lot of people in the community that are like, you don't care about anything. You don't care about root causes. You don't care about where the guns are actually coming from. You don't care about the people in the communities that are actually suffering like that. A lot of these anti-gunners, it's about guns. That's it. All that to say that, real victims of crime, if they don't go along with the anti-gun agenda, they're silenced. And then when it comes to the doctors, which is another, the hypocrisy is incredible, right? Because they're like, well, you can't disagree with the doctor. Well, until a doctor with more bona fides than Najma shows up at the Toronto Board of Health meeting about this municipal handgun ban crap. And the fix was in the whole time. I don't know if you guys remember that, but Dr. Mazdosi, who responded to the shooting at École Polytechnique, was there trying to talk about his experience and talk about his opinion. And so not only is he a doctor that attended a mass shooting, the biggest one in Canadian history, and he's a gun owner. Like, he actually knows both sides of that story. His bona fides are far more relevant than Najma's, right? So unfortunately, Najma and all her little city councilors, the fix was in. They all just started dogpiling on him about who runs the website to his group and all this other stuff. And Najma sits behind him on camera, if you remember, I made that video, and laughing at him, like snickering and looking around, like he, guess who's getting set on fire here? Like, just, I don't want to put too fine a point on it, but a lot of these people, they're just bad people. They're just crappy people.
Yeah, they are.
They don't have the features of normal, reasonable, kind people. They're like a dog with a bone. Somebody gave them a bone or some money or some attention, and they're just running, and it's quite sociopathic. It's pretty bad, but Evelyn deserves a lot more attention and a lot more respect, especially from that crowd.
Absolutely. And I know Marcel Wilson from the One by One movement, which we've spoken about on previous podcasts, was also in that. And he really came at it from a real community perspective. I mean, he's a reformed gang leader who now literally works in the streets, like rescuing kids, giving them opportunities, giving them a hand up rather than a handout, and really, saving kids in his own neighborhoods. And the carnage these people have seen on a daily basis is almost like something out of a Hollywood movie. So to just be completely dismissed by, what is usually some really privileged people in really privileged positions who make up these anti-gun lobbies. I think it's about time to shed a little more light on that sort of the disparity, right? Yeah. So lots more of them. But if you haven't seen The Gun Chase, I'll be sure to share it out on our social channels again right after we're done recording today. So spread that around. And I mean, it's a 1 hour documentary. The link does not have commercials, but it's a great opportunity to even sit down with your family members and friends during this crazy pandemic time and just say, hey, let's have an honest look at what was found during this investigative journalism, and let's talk about the real crime and violence in our streets.
It was an honest look for once, and a lot of work. Christina did a lot of work there, probably more work than the government did to try to figure out what the hell is actually going on in Toronto. And I will also always point people back to, if you go onto YouTube and you search for Under the Gun, it's a CBC series of documentaries, and there was one for Banff Ledbury. You'll know it when you start watching it, but they actually uncovered the whole truth. People have heard me say that before, but if you haven't, go find that Under the Gun, CBC, the Banff Ledbury episode, and you'll see exactly how you stop firearm-related violence. CBC uncovered it, and then they never mentioned it again. Then they were back to the regular script.
Oh, right?
Yeah.
I wonder why.
Anyway, next thing.
Next thing. Those are my big things. I just wanted to give a sneak peek to everybody watching this. I've got a couple, I don't want to call it a ladies' clothing line, but I've got a couple of new items coming. And I know, speaking from a woman's perspective in the firearms community, I'm sometimes the debate goes, that gun control is a women's issue and, whatever. I mean, there's an aspect of that that's true. However, I also believe firearm rights are women's rights. And I sort of took Rod's infamous logo, the one that's right behind me, and we've turned it into a little project. I don't know if you guys can see this, but I've got some clothing coming. We've taken the Firearm Rights or Human Rights logo and made some different items for the girls department on the clothing store that says firearm rights are women's rights. So I'm gonna keep exploring that. There's more things I want to do there, but I feel that women are playing a larger role in this conversation lately. The The women are the fastest growing segment of the firearms community. More women are hunting, sports shooting, and even getting involved in advocacy. So, yeah, we're going to have some girl stuff.
Well, the government's doing everything they can to put a stop to that. So,
oh yeah.
Anyways,
yeah.
And then I think the last issue is the neon sign contest.
Yeah. So this sign that's right behind me. Let me scooch over. This thing is huge. It's like 3 feet across. It's massive. The reason it's still on my wall is because it took 3 screws to put it up there, and I think I'm, temporarily, and I'm just going to leave it until we draw for it because it's probably the safest place for it. I've got a beautiful wooden crate that it fits in. Somebody's going to win it. Do you want this for your gun room or your living room, or maybe right on the front of the house would be nice? Yeah, like who wants it? Do you want to win it? You can win it, but you have to enter by May 8th.
That's awesome.
Do you want it?
Does anyone want this?
Does anybody want this? I know that a lot of people would want it. Now, the bad news is you only have until May 8th to enter. Enter now, enter often. The good news is after May 8th, we'll come out with the next one. So this is going to be a year-long fundraising challenge. So if you don't win this time, or you didn't win last time, I put up the picture actually of Barry who won the last one. He sent in a nice picture to the office. But if you don't win this one, don't worry. There's going to be other ones, and we're going to keep going all year long. We're going to light up 2021.
Oh, yeah,
so
we've got another 8 of them.
Stay tuned for more. Yeah, and I'll share this link around as well, and maybe we can put it in the notes for the podcast here too.
Cool, awesome. Anything else?
Very last thing, we will, unfortunately, due to COVID and measures and just the complete disaster that it has turned into, we will be doing a virtual AGM again this year. I know lots of groaning from the crowd, I'm sure, but we'll be doing a virtual AGM. It's going to be June 12th, I believe. I will be sending out details to all members who are eligible to receive it. We're just going to have our hour-long business meeting. Usually we try and keep it to an hour because it's very dull. It's basically the business side. But I'll also be sending an invitation to a virtual Q&A. I think last year we did it the night before the AGM, and it was you and I, and then we had Michael Loberg, General Counsel for CCFR, come on, and Michelle Rempel, which was fun. She was like a guest. She's always been supportive of the CCFR, so she's spoken at in-person AGMs for the CCFR, and she came on and took some Q&A from the audience, and that was a lot of fun. It actually got a lot more views than the actual AGM, and for good reason.
No, the AGM is, you got to be really interested to attend it.
Well, yeah, it's updates from different departments, review the financials, legal update. This year we've got quite a bit under the legal update, but all of the information to watch that will be coming out to your inboxes. So make sure that you accept emails from the CCFR. If for some reason we're sneaking up on June 12th and you haven't received your email and you think you may have been skipped, send an email to info@firearmrights.ca and we'll make sure to get a link to you. And that's what I've got for you.
Yeah. And so just a couple comments on the virtual AGM. Every year we've had a lot of fun at the AGM, and it's kind of a special thing, when you get to actually physically go and hang out with almost like the March was, right? With like-minded individuals.
Yeah.
It's such an accepting environment, right? But last year we had to do a virtual one. This year we're doing a virtual one. They're not as much fun. The socializing isn't there and all that stuff, but it is a lot less expensive for one, which I think is important. We're trying to, we really watch our money, and we want to always reserve our funds to do programs because that's why we exist, right? It's not to fly around and take trips and all that stuff. It's to spend money on things that have never been done on behalf of gun owners before. So from that perspective, I'm happy about that.
Yeah, you're totally right. It saves a ton of money. And I mean, these are super unfriendly times. And we've got a lot of projects on the table and a lot of projects coming up. So it's okay. Yeah. And I mean, we've got bigger fish to fry. One day we'll get together again in the future, but for now, I fully support this. And doing it. We always did have a virtual element to our in-person AGMs as well, because we're the only organization that's inclusive of all our members, regardless of where they are geographically. So we always had a live stream for those that couldn't travel and attend the AGM, which is great. We will always continue to do that. So basically, we're just building off of that promise. And the good thing about virtually is you can come from anywhere in the country. Just tune in. You can wear your jammies. Everyone can have a beer after on their own, and there we go.
Or you can drink beer all the way through the whole thing. But
you can literally drink beer through it if you like. Yeah.
But I'm just kidding. But it's a great point, right? Because we were streaming our AGM 6 years ago when it all started, right? We were way ahead of the curve there, and we've gone through so much. You forget sometimes.
Well, I think, we're living in the age of technology. I mean, I look back to when I was a kid, we didn't have internet. I think we had rotary phones. Things have changed, and I think it is incumbent upon us to make use of the virtual and technological tools and advancements that are available to us to make sure that our members, if they have an interest in it, can attend. And I don't think it should be reserved specifically just for members who can foot the bill for a plane ticket and a hotel room. I think everybody should have the right to come and experience the AGM. So that's what we do.
Awesome. All right. Well, that was a whole lot. So I appreciate the update, and we will see you next time.
All right. Take care, Rod.
Okay, that's going to do it for episode 90 of the CCFR Radio Podcast. We're approaching 100. Wonder what we're going to do to commemorate that. That's going to be a tough one. I'm going to have to really get imaginative to figure out how to do it, and everything's remote and all the rest of that stuff. But thanks so much, everyone, for your support. Don't forget, if you want to donate to the CCFR, if you're going to donate $10 or more, or multiples of $10, don't forget, use the link in the description box below and get entered for free into the neon sign contest, Lighting Up 2021. So, and that way you have a chance to enter. You have a chance to win one of these awesome signs, and we've got a lot of signs left. So it's going to keep on going for as long as we got these signs, and they're expensive and they're really cool. So make sure that if you're going to donate, do it through the link below, and that way you're not going to miss a free entry into the contest. All right. So thanks to Tracy Wilson for coming on. We really appreciate the extensive update. And thanks to our sponsors again, Vortex, the power of optics. Thanks to Vortex for continuing to support the podcast, and our newest sponsors, the Sask River chapter of Safari Club International. We really appreciate all your help. We appreciate everyone's help. Thanks. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time.
This is another episode of the CCFR Radio Podcast. Remember, if you don't stand up for your own ability to own and use firearms, who will? Join the CCFR or donate right now at www.firearmrights.ca.